Welcome back, guys, to the EquiRatings Jumping Podcast. We have another episode in our Road to Paris series here for you today. And after the weekend that we've had, the Insertogenbos, the Dutch Masters, how can we not talk about the Dutch? Team NL, so strong. Insertogenbos, you were there very briefly.
Yeah.
How was the atmosphere? What was that like? Tell all.
Oh, brilliant. I mean, firstly, brilliant walking in. Like, there's always it's great going to the different shows where you get that feeling of putting it all together. I'd never been before. So, like, as you walk in and your first time where you're piecing together all of the stories that you've read, all of the numbers that I've looked at coming from Satogenbosch over the years, and then suddenly you get to see it and feel it and you get to walk around and way bigger than I realized. Way bigger, just in terms of the size of the venue. Like, there was a yacht for sale inside Charlotte, like an actual full yacht. It was still reasonably quiet. I was there on Friday, and it was Friday morning, so big dressage. Still a very big dressage show, obviously. And a huge dressage country as well. We're talking, actually, the Netherlands. You're looking at a huge percentage of the membership of KNHS and of your big shows being dressage based. So it was really interesting to watch to feel it, to see it all. And that was the Friday. Yeah, so that was ahead of the Friday night class, which I guess was won by someone that we're going to talk about a lot on this show. In Beauville. But I think it takes us nicely, Charlotte, into as a preview, as a road to Paris. Part of the conversation here is how quickly these change. I think it feels like a little while since we did our last one of these. And actually, even in that time, we were just talking before we went on air, even in the time since we recorded the Irish show, like
so much has
moves.
changed.
Yeah, so much moves, so much change. I think, if I'm honest, the Dutch will be hoping that not much changes between now and Paris. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I definitely agree. They have two of their highest rated horses are in the top 5 globally. And then we saw an incredible win for their 3rd rated horse this week. If they can keep that team on form and take those 3 horses to Paris, they are in with an incredible chance, in my opinion. It could be really, really good. I think we should start with the highest rated horse in Holland, in the Netherlands right now. Harrie Smolders just won Rider of the Year of the KNHS. What a year he's had. 8 5-star 160 podium places in 2023. 2 of those were wins on Eurocas, but the other 6 podiums were Monaco. And we've talked about this horse so much, and he's still lacking that win. I cannot wait for Monaco to win.
Well, you have written an article, have you not, on these close seconds, and at multiple times over the last 3 or 4, well, not last kind of 6 months, I suppose, we've thought, is this the time that we'll release it? First thing I would say on the top rated horse for Team NL here right now is we haven't seen Monaco since
Geneva.
2023.
Since December.
And Geneva wasn't great. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it probably didn't go according to plan for them. They were in that Rolex top 10 final. They finished 9th, which isn't ideal. They had, I think, 12 faults in the first round. Now, they did jump clear in the second round of that class.
Yeah.
So not all was lost. But I do think that they entered Geneva hoping to do better. Even the Grand Prix, they had a fence down, a time penalty as well. That probably also didn't go according to their plan. But I don't think that takes away from what they did in 2023 previously. Like, one of the most consistent horses, and not only just in my opinion, but like the stats back that up. just it felt like for a period in the summer there, it felt like every GCT podium had Harrie Smolders and Monaco up there. And it also gave Harrie Smolders the GCT champion. It won him the championship, well deserved. So I think that they have a plan. I think Monaco's resting right now, preparing behind the scenes, making up a plan. Where are they going? I think it's going to be I think they're thinking about what they're doing. They're not trying to win everything this year. They want to win one thing, and it's Paris.
I went big on earning, I think, and the Europeans, and it always feels. I mean, let's not forget this ELO rating of 779 is still the second top-rated horse in the world. I mean, King Edward is so far out in front at the moment on an 8-10 that if you allow King Edward to be the generational talent, the one-off that you see every so often, Harrie Smolders, despite that lack of the 160 win with Monaco actually remains top-rated horse from the others. And I mean, right now, Hansen is in number 3 spot. And again, it's a horse that we haven't seen jump since December 2023. And again, I think using a little bit of intuition, I think Hansen is the one there that you think it's interesting that they've built that rating and maintained that rating. Hansen doesn't feel part of the same conversation in a way possibly that you would say the next couple. So Dynamics with Steve, I think probably feels closer to it in terms of making sense. Then Beauville, then James Can Cruz, and then Dubai de Cedra with Julien Epillard. And actually, just to remind ourselves, Monaco sits on top of that list still. It's very tempting, I think. Particularly, I think Dubai de Cedra with Julien and Stephen Dynamics. I think both of them feel like, and James Can Cruz, goodness, like, although again another horse that things move fast for. If we were having this show, Charlotte, even 2 or 3 months ago, just before maybe we saw some of the big US classes, maybe we would have had James Can Cruz even higher in our thinking. But I think it's a good reminder that Monaco remains as a 779 the leader. I think he spent a number of years kind of in Beauville's shadow, and the championship medals of Beauville probably keep Monaco in Beauville's shadow, if that makes sense. I think as a Dutch public, you would probably see it as Beauville 1, Monaco 2. But interestingly, on ratings over like that consistency, all of those 160 podiums that you're referencing, Charlotte, all of those close calls, I think actually built it on a rating that from somewhere, I would say about the middle of last year, Monaco put past Beauville. And while they're still quite close, they're still a very definite 1-2 and they can interchange a little bit. Monaco is the second top-rated horse in the world and the top-rated Dutch horse. And subject to them picking up where they left off to some degree. I know that the final rounds in Geneva are not probably where we want to take up, but subject to them maintaining the 160 form from the second half of last year, they're the leader still. Like, but Monaco, Beauville, I think feel very, very safe as a 1-2 to talk about. Can we skip for a moment to number 3, because I think we'll definitely come back and talk about Beauville in a second. But I'm so excited about number 3, and I think if you're a Team NL fan, the emergence of a really strong number 3 is what separates you possibly from Britain, and is what probably puts you up there as one of the top nations going to Paris.
Yeah, absolutely. And you say that you're excited to discuss Highway TN. I think everyone's excited after what we saw on Sunday. What a win. I think I didn't just visibly gasp. I visibly, like, audibly screamed.
Yeah.
The entirety of Sligo heard me scream when I saw that he finished first, 0.04 seconds ahead of King Edward. When I saw King Edward jump his jump off, I never thought that he was going to be beat. And And I don't want to sell Highway short, but I actually really didn't expect Highway to do it. Even, I'd say, 3/4 into his jump off, he was behind, but that run up to that last fence was just incredible. It was beautiful and gave the Dutch crowd the victory, not just the victory, but the first Dutch win of a Rolex Grand Slam. And the emotion on Willem's face was just, it's so nice to see riders like that express emotions in that way. And I think that's what makes the sport so nice and great to watch. And I think that's what it's all about. But on the other hand, it has given Willem a really good spot going into the rest of this Olympic year. Highway's last 3 shows were Amsterdam, Gothenburg, Den Bosch. Yeah. He finished second in the World Cup in Amsterdam. He won the Grand Prix, the trophy of Gothenburg, and he won the Rolex Grand Prix in 's-Hertogenbosch. That's 2 wins, 3 podium places in 3 shows. Upper level. That is incredible. And it's not like he just emerged out of nowhere. He'd already won the Grand Prix in Rotterdam. He finished second in Falsterbo. Like, the horse means business. And he wasn't initially kind of the favorite for Willem. Would you agree, Dee?
Yeah, I was just going to add, and it's not Grand Dorado, it's Highway that we're talking about, you know.
Exactly. He kind of had to emerge out of the shadows of Grand Dorado, who had this incredible 2022 season with Willem. And then Willem got injured, and then subsequently Grand Dorado got injured. And then he was just left with Highway, and Highway stepped up to the plate seriously, big time.
We asked him, or Sam asked him, I think, in the press conference on the Saturday night in Gothenburg. Sam said, you got injured. He left it kind of vague. He said something like, "Oh, you had to step out of Herning." Was Herning, wasn't it? Yeah, you had to step out of Herning. What's your management plan of these two in terms of the journey to Paris? But he asked him outright, what are you going to do with them? Like, who's ahead? Where are you going? And he basically said, look, you can't, it's a very privileged position to be in, to have the two. And as long as I stay sound and these two horses stay sound, we just keep on that journey. They all, Peter Fredriksson was the same. Henrik van Eckermann, I think, embraces the Paris conversation a little bit more, which I think is important. Of course, like, we're on a Paris preview show, or a road to Paris, where it's the natural conversation. Peter, when he was asked about it, was much more like, this is, you can't ask us about this kind of question at this part of the year. There's so much to happen, and of course, no one's going to know that more than Willem Greve. But the way he dealt with it and the way he talked about it it felt just even on that Saturday night, Charlotte, and that is Gothenburg, which is, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, he said something more along the lines of, Highway was ready for tonight. Grand Dorado's on more of a comeback trail. We'll step up again and we'll go to 's-Hertogenbosch. He was, because the Saturday, it was the Grand Dorado was jumping on the Sunday of the World Cup. But even for me, that tells you something, Charlotte. I think, now I could be reading into it too wrong, but if he's picking Highway for the Saturday night class and he's going Grand Dorado on the Sunday, you would have thought at least some part of his thinking was that Grand Dorado was ahead or could be back ahead. I would have thought those 3 results, I think changed things, and certainly on ratings change things. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll discuss Grand Dorado as well, because as the people watching on YouTube can see, but the people listening won't know, is that we have the top 160 ELO rated horses in the Netherlands currently up on screen, and Grand Dorado isn't on there. because when we discuss 160 ELO horses, we're looking at horses that have produced at least 3 clear rounds of 5-star 160 in the past 12 months. And Grandorado isn't there yet because he was off for so long. He only actually came back to the sport, in this international sport, in December of 2023. Did his first 5-star in Amsterdam, which was in January. But he did win a class. He won a 150, the Sunday 150 class, which is, it's a big feature class. It's not the Grand Prix, but it's a big class. So that was a great comeback to make. I believe he finished third in a 4-star Grand Prix in Opklabig. So he's not hanging about. Like, he is putting in good performances. But Highway, for me right now, is just, Highway is flying it. Well, I do agree a little bit more with Willem in the sense that Grandorado is just kind of on the road to comeback.
On the road, yeah.
He's kind of building back up, but let's not forget what we saw of Grandorado in 2022. Like, I think he was the only horse in 22 to produce 3 double clears in 5-star Nations Cups that year, which is an incredible feat. Like, that's 6 big 5-star 160 classes clear. It's incredible. He was one of the favorites, I believe, to go to Herning, and then unfortunately Willem gets injured and they're out. And on that, actually, Willem has these 2 great horses, but while Grandorado for a long time and probably still now would be esteemed as the better horse or the favorite, but actually Highway is the one with the championship experience. He did go to the Europeans in Milan and finished 10th individually, top 10. Like, they had an incredibly good championship there. So they have that championship experience together. They have the stamina to jump 3-4 days in a row, whereas Grandorado hasn't had the chance to prove that yet.
Barring an injury to Willem Greve, the fact that there's 2 of those, when you would say there's Highway and Grandorado, you think he's got a great shot, between those 2. The fact that O'Bailey went to the Europeans and that Beauville, winner of the Friday night, the VDL on Friday night, as his return, again, another horse following a similar plan, I would suggest, in that quiet start to 2024 looks planned when you see it, probably with the 2 of them taking the same approach, Monaco and Beauville, in that case. So Beauville remaining, I would say, as number 1 or, joint first pick, let's call it. But certainly the horse that's brought the championship medals, which probably gets him as onto the team, I would say. And then Monaco. If not Monaco, you've got Eureka's. Harrie's number 2. It just, I suppose, we'll go to Eureka's now, but it does look like each of those riders, whether it's the kind of up and coming O'Bailey with Michael, or it's Beauville, whether it's Eureka's or Monaco, or whether it's Grandorado or Highway, it does feel like the top 6 horses are shared between 2 riders, which, Charlotte, I would say is an unbelievable spot to be. The drop off isn't huge. I mean, maybe the drop off from a Beauville to an O'Bailey is big enough, but other than that, that's the only real drop, which would leave them in a serious position as the current format of the sport, which is find 3 horses.
Yeah.
Where would they sit? Do you know that? Where would they sit? I suppose if you were just taking 3 horses, an average ELO of 3 horses.
If we just look at these 3 horses, I believe that they would stand in second on the average ELO. So we have the Swedes, obviously, with the help of King Edward. I think it's Hansen and H&M Indiana. They would be the favorites right now if the Olympics were tomorrow and they take those top 3 ELO rated horses. They would sit on top, but they would be pretty closely followed by the Dutch with Monaco, Beauville, and Highway right now.
So, like, live, we're talking live gold, team gold contenders.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? The fact that they've got the double, they're backed up pretty tightly, in that if you were to extend, we've limited it in that calculation you're doing, you've limited it to one horse per rider. But I think it's interesting in that I don't think the gap would be massive. That brings us to Eureka's. Harrie's backup.
And what a backup to have.
160 winner, yeah.
We have discussed before Monaco's lack of 5-star 160 wins, which is not the case for Eureka's. Eureka's won 2 5-star Grand Prix last year for Harrie. He won in St. Gallen, and he won the GCT Grand Prix in Riesenbeck. And then this weekend, we saw him come back in flying form. He finished 7th, I believe, in the Friday VDL Group Prize that Beauville won, but then came back in the Grand Prix as well and just came out fighting, finished on the podium, finished 3rd behind Highway and King Edward, and just was flying it. It was incredible to see. I was a bit disappointed when I saw that Harrie wasn't bringing Monaco to Sertogenbos, but he made up for it. He absolutely made up for it, and gave Eureka's a really good boost to his ELO. He's up there in the top 100 ELO-rated horses in the world now, and a great backup for Harrie if anything were to happen to Monaco or Monaco's not fit. With Eureka's, the Dutch would still be in a very strong position.
So that leaves you, I think, with a pretty strong. I think it's a pretty strong idea who those are likely to be if you're following ratings. Who are we missing? Talk to me. Hernandez is number 5 on the list here, and this is a 160 ELO rated list. Hernandez very nearly went to Milan. I know, isn't that the case? I mean,
yeah. So Hernandez, I believe, was selected to go to Milan to the Europeans, but unfortunately had an injury. I think he was injured and had to drop out. But they had been on cracking form before the Europeans. They had a 70% clear rate. They jumped double clear in the Nations Cup in Falsterbo, double clear in the Grand Prix in Falsterbo, double clear in the Grand Prix in Rotterdam. And Kars Bonhoff is only 27 years old, 27 years old, I believe. And they were flying it. And I was so disappointed for them, mostly not to see them in Milan. But they were
Hernandez
still
is this the horse with one eye?
Yes, he has only one eye. He's come back to the sport now. He's at Sunshine Tour again in that building up kind of phase of the year, trying to get some rounds in, and just building up after injury. But they were named on the long list, so the Dutch have actually selected a long list for Paris, and Hernandez and Kars Bonhoff are actually named on that. So I think that they do have a very clear plan to kind of work towards that. And I would love to see them as the 4th combination going to Paris. I think that they would really deserve it, but we can't forget that there would be a slight lack of experience, senior championship experience, because Kars has actually jumped junior and young rider Europeans before, but senior championship experience they would lack. But they could benefit so strongly from Harrie Smolders, Michael van der Vleuten, Willem Greve's experience in that regard. Like, it would be an incredible chance for Kars to kind of experience a championship in that company. And
I think he trains with Willem as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it would be so lovely to see them there.
My favorite horse at the moment is not anywhere on our screens here. I actually don't even know the long list, so I doubt he's on the long list. Show me the long list. Have you got the next one? What horses are missing? Oh, so not on my horse isn't here either. Okay, so this is not on our list, but on the NL long list. Okay, Charlotte, who have we got on screen?
So we've got Grandorado, who we have discussed at length. Another interesting one, Havel van der Wolfsacker with Louis Joppe. They actually jumped clear over fences in the Rolex Grand Prix in 's-Hertogenbosch. They were a little bit slow and had 3 time penalties, but clear over fences in that tough Grand Prix is a really good performance. They're only on an ELO of 630 at the moment, but there's clearly potential there. Jos saw something that put them on the long list. O'Beely van Brouwershof, Michael van der Vleuten, we've also discussed. Went to the Europeans with Michael last year, but an ELO of 611. We saw them in Doha, I think, at the beginning of the year, and that perhaps didn't go according to plan for them, which is why they dropped their ELO slightly. And then another one that I find quite interesting is a new horse for Jur Vrieling. Only came to him in December. They did their first show in Mechelen. Jourdain VDL. They actually immediately jumped clear in the 5-star Grand Prix there when Jourdain was only 9 years old. He's 10 now. But they just haven't had the chance to really show us much yet. They did go to the Longines League of Nations in Abu Dhabi. I think they had 5 penalties there in the first round, but the team didn't qualify for the second round. But I think Jur Vrieling is one of my favorite riders, and he's so, so talented. And the fact that he was named on that long list to me says something. And I think Jur will tell Jos Lansink, the chef d'équipe, if the horse would be ready or not. And if anyone can make it happen, I think it would be Jur. So I think they're definitely a pair to look out for. Like I said, like they haven't done much. Jourdain doesn't have a lot of experience at all. Like, he's been jumping 3- and 4-star Grand Prix, I think, with Alex Gill for the VDL stud, and only an ELO of 585. But I see potential. I like them. I'd love to see them.
You love Jur, which gets.
I love him.
Okay, so that gets a 585 rated horse onto the list. However, I love another Dutchman. It's a Lars Kirsten horse, but actually it's not. It's not the big. It's not the big Gothenburg winner. It's not Halilea. It is Funky Fred. Funky Fred Marinshoff. Was that how would a native speaker pronounce that?
I think I'd say you made a good effort. Funky Fred Marienshoff.
Okay, no, much better.
Only a 10-year-old. He has been doing so well, since the start of the year. An ELO of 794. So that's actually
694.
694. Yeah. That would actually be higher than Hernandez. That's actually top 5. But because they lack those 5-star 160 clears at the moment, they've only actually jumped 1 5-star 160, and they were clear in that one. So they just haven't had the chance to kind of build that yet. But when we look at 150 and above, they have jumped 10 and were clear 6 times.
There's something there. They looked, Charlotte, visually so impressive. As I watched them in Gothenburg, I was sitting with Sam. I think it was the Friday night class in Gothenburg, and I said to Sam, that Funky Fred horse is cool, which would be rare for me. You're watching that many horses that actually. There was a couple of riders that stood out earlier in the week, and Lars and Funky Fred actually were ones that definitely were visually very eye-catching. He had obviously an incredible Gothenburg generally, but it does go beyond that when you look at. I looked at just the ELO growth of the last, since the start of the 2023 season, and really they were only stepping up to 4 and 5-star level for the first time. They came in at the 520 ELO, so that kind of base ELO around that start of the 23 season, and it's one of the big movers over the last 14-15 months. Funky Fred. So he was very calm watching his personality sit on the Sunday afternoon. Again, King Edward narrowly beaten twice now in succession by Dutch horses. But watching Lars on the Sunday afternoon in Gothenburg, after the Halilea win, where he had Henrik on his right and Peter Fredriksson on his left in Gothenburg on a Sunday afternoon. First time at the venue, never on a World Cup podium before. He was calm. He was able to speak very clearly. It was just, again, he was impressive as a person. And I think it kind of leads you into that. It kind of leads you into that feeling that he's someone that would thrive if he is number 4. You know, where it feels, and again, we're guessing here at the teams, but it feels like Harrie, Michael, and Willem all on current form and on current soundness feel like they slip into that team on one of their two. But I would suggest Lars Kirsten in the same way as we're talking about Kars Bonhoff. I think it feels like someone who would really benefit from being part of that setup. If it is the number 4 position for a horse like Funky Fred, it feels to me like something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lars is ace. I actually used to work for Lars for a couple of years back, and the whole family is so lovely, and they're so nice and polite, and they would all deserve, like Lars especially, but they would all deserve it to go. I don't know how that would work with the long list, and my only reservation with that would be that Funky Fred is only 10 years old, so that could be
he's not
potentially
even on the list. Okay, yeah, he's not even on the long list. I'm trying to get him in there. Okay, fair point.
But that's fair enough. Like, they have really been jumping into the spotlight in the past couple of months, and we can't talk about the Dutch without mentioning Lars with Halilea and Funky Fred. Like, they've been out there, they've been jumping into the spotlight. We can't not mention them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, maybe
in this pod.
Do you think, can those lists change? No, would I don't have a clue how this stuff works, but
we'll give Jos Lansing a call. We can give him your suggestions.
I don't think, to be honest, I think he's going to know about Funky Fred without me. But just in case, Charlotte, let's make sure that make sure he knows. Okay. Any other business on Team NL? What are we thinking? Is there anyone else?
There's a couple there that are on the long list that we haven't mentioned yet. Leopold van Asten, VDL Group Iron Z. They finished 7th in the World Cup in Helsinki, but I feel like their clear rate could be a bit better. The same kind of goes for Kim Emma in Flame Go. Saying that, did have a good podium finish in Gothenburg. They were also on the Longines League of Nations team in Abu Dhabi, so they're getting the chances, they're getting exposure, they're up there. Like, they had that really good 3rd place finish in Gothenburg, so you know those are on the long list too, to be considered. But I'd like to see a little bit more of them. Perhaps on that Longines League of Nations circuit before I would put them on my personal team, especially knowing that Harrie, Michael, and Willem are so strong for the Dutch.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel. D, if you were Jos Lansing, who would your 4 be to go to Paris right now?
I don't know what's going on with Monaco. I presume it's planned, but he's also the 2nd top rated horse in the world. And if not Monaco, it's a double 160 winner. Actually, you know, that Riesenbeck win that you mentioned for Urikas is one of the top rated performances actually on numbers that we saw. I think it's Highway. So I think it's Monaco, Beauville, and Highway. I think you can try and find angles in. If anything goes wrong with any horse, which can happen, I think you've got a really nice Urikas play if it is Monaco. O'Bailey would worry me. I didn't realize the drop is quite as significant. 771 to what, 610. O'Bailey was a top rated. I'm not saying he's not top rated now, but it was one of the top rated 9-year-olds in the world. Have we am I right in thinking we have a current Dutch horse that's sitting in a similar, is it?
Indeed, yes, we have Michael Grewe, so not Willem Grewe, Michael Grewe's Denver. They've been doing really well at the Sunshine Tour, which is 4-star level. I believe that they finished on the podium. I don't remember if it was first, second, or third, unfortunately, in the Grand Prix there, which is a 155 4-star Grand Prix, which is, it's a big deal for a 9-year-old, newly turned 9-year-old horse. I think he's top 3 9-year-old on ELO at the moment. So that could be very interesting for the Dutch looking forward. Willem Grewe actually has a 9-year-old in that top 10 too, Pretty Woman van Paradijs. So Willem is certainly not short of talent in his stable at the moment, even young talent coming through. So there's exciting times coming for the Dutch.
Are you with me on the same 3?
Oh, absolutely. And my fourth combination is Jur Vrieling. Even on their ELO 585, I believe in Jur, and I would love to see him go to another Olympics.
I think it would be wrong to select the horse closest to my heart in Funky Fred. Given that he's not on the list, I think that would cause havoc. So I will go with Hernandez. I think I read that because of that, I don't think they compete too much in the winter. So I think it tends to be around this time of the year, Charlotte, that we'll begin to see them coming back out and jumping at the big shows again outdoor. So I think there's a little bit of room for the disappointment possibly of not making Milan to come in and play that role. I agree with you in that I think if Cars could go in as number 4, it's also a huge learning experience. Cool time to do it. I'll go Hernandez as number 4.
Great. I think that's all for us today. It's been great chatting with you again, Dee, discussing these horses. I'm so excited for this Dutch team now, especially after the past weekend. And for you guys joining us on YouTube, you can watch us on YouTube, but also on Spotify and all other podcast apps. Please do find us on Instagram. There's lots of new stuff, fun stats, fun stories about every jumping show, eventing show that we've got going on at the moment. We also have a WhatsApp channel for weekly updates on 5-star Grand Prix classes. And you can find the links in our Instagram. Thank you so much, Dee.
Thanks, Charlotte.